Some spend their entire life fearing that one inevitability that comes for every living thing. Most go about their days not considering how closely death walks alongside us with every step we take. A few take a different approach. It is, after all, the unknown that we fear. Even death, if we hold it closely and know it well, loses its terrifying and mysterious aspect. I am Nero, and this is my story.
Nero has held this more closely than anyone when warm blood still moved through his limbs, when he still enjoyed the feeling of the sun on his face. Nero was a field medic. He would follow the king's forces from battle to battle, fort to fort. During times of relative peace, he loved his work. There was blood and pain, but it was manageable. Accidents happen, illnesses spread, and someone must set things to right. It was during battle that he encountered true horror. The suffering and the violence he saw was well beyond what he had thought possible. These wounds, this pain, the cries of agony, they weren't accidents. Every instance of harm on the battlefield was intentional, inflicted in hatred or in fear. Chaos on a grand scale. It was unmanageable and no one could set it to right. There were so many wounded. There was no way to attend to everyone, even among those he could reach. There was often nothing to be done, except waiting for the mangled form before him and gracelessly expire in blood and tears. People have a remarkable ability to become accustomed to anything. As the bodies continued to pile up, Nero began to forget the faces of men who had died in front of him, as well as those he had saved. He grew callous. He stalked through the field with purpose, quickly assessing the situation, performing triage with the greatest efficacy. With his cold eyes and case of sharp instrument, he often frightened even those whose life he was saving. But any soldier who found himself short a limb could count himself lucky to receive Nero's attentions. This cold efficiency led to Nero's questionable method to dealing with the fatally injured. With a flat expression, he would whisper,
"You're going to be alright. Just stay still."
as he deftly severed a major artery using a scalpel so sharp the recipient often didn't even feel it. A brief moments later, the wounded soldier would cross the veil. He viewed this as a kindness, but also became fascinated with the process of dying, and with what lay beyond these darkened gates. Nero was an expert surgeon, and among the gruesome array of war injuries, his small precise incisions were never noted. However, those around him became curious about his notebooks, sketches, and increasingly unusual surgical instruments. The men became suspicious, and when an officer was asked to investigate of the nature of this item, it was too late for the talented healer. When he was arrested and brought to trial, he simply sneered at his judges. It was beneath him to defend the undertaking actions with such clear evidence. If this unenlightened bureaucrat wished to sentence him for a crime, then so be it. The death sentence was handed down without much deliberation. The following dawn announced the judges Nero would witness his final sunrise. Those watching the condemned man upon this announcement were perplexed. How could he be wearing such a contented smile when this was at the door? The night before the verdict was to be carried out, locked in a cold cell, Nero bit deeply into his finger with a series of arcane exhortations. traced out sentences on the stony floor with his blood. There he sat murmuring in the dark, occasionally hearing other voices murmur back. This lasted until they come to take him away, by which time the deed was done.
Embrace the inevitable.